Do you like it? Did I do a good job? I use words I thought you'd have a fun time saying. Are you streaming this?
It's just recording because I didn't know.
Okay. Oh hey, you watching this? I have to leave. Wait, do you want to watch Monica Michigan BS with me? Okay, oh, that's fair. I understand that. Okay. I'm assigned to it. What? I'm supposed to be VPs, but they have.
3-0 against New, by the way.
I don't care.
UTD's not in there, right? That's all.
No, not yet.
You saw the top of the style. There's cards you can read.
I didn't do that. That's a him thing.
Yeah.
No. Like you gotta be your.
Oh, you made a complete copy already.
Okay. I'll be watching your flow.
Wait, I don't think
Dave,
has it updated.
Flow the one AC.
I fixed it.
Like lock in. Okay.
Not on any.
Inside.
There we go.
Hey dude, it's tape. Tape my tags. Clear once you do it.
Zach, honestly, my word is like breaking. I'm sending it to you on Discord.
Okay.
Okay, just make it red if you don't want it.
I'm just gonna delete it.
Don't delete it because I need to know to delete it.
Okay. Yeah, I see. I'm gonna put an X next to it. Sure, it's fastest for me.
Oh yeah, just X what you don't want. This one? I like more than this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you agree or disagree?
I mean, I agree in principle.
Okay.
See what happens.
Oh, this is close. You can say something.
Yeah, it could be merciful. I'll make sure the new stuff like the bottom.
Yeah, type it and it should see. Or that should say so.
And this is like, what's the plan for this?
What's up?
You have all the stuff I sent you.
I got the first one. Okay. Year of midterms. Look at
I
this.
have updated. Wait, there's.
No, there's like 2 more links.
Oh, okay. Where's it sent?
Discord. Connor. You're the bottom 2 balls.
And then this file, and then that file have uniqueness for the big items. So yeah, so that's uniqueness for the.
Okay, this is Jason. Okay, I just know everyone was doing, so that's fine.
You good?
Send it to your Discord. Like, check, because I'm technically inserting basically everything's inserted.
Okay, no one followed their instructions.
What did you say?
On like we asked for 1 dog before the round started. We got 7.
Good.
What the?
Jacob set that up for us.
Yeah,
we
of course
can
he did.
Move it way out of the way if you'd like.
I just would like to be able to.
Yeah. Does up here work better for you? Like if we move
That
this
would be
back a
one.
bit? Awesome.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
It's alright.
for you.
Alright.
Yeah.
Could be better, could be worse. Could be less hot in here.
Yeah, just
Finally.
The prophecy
I
has been
knew,
fulfilled.
I knew when I heard them say Kansas, I was like, I got this one. It's gonna be.
Alright, do y'all need anything? Water? Energy drink? You good?
Yeah.
So it's up to 6.
Bye.
Alright, good luck, y'all. You see
Huh?
me
Yeah.
if you-
Oh, good work with the thermostat.
Yeah.
Quality.
Oh. Is everyone good?
I don't have
No.
I have it.
Good. Okay.
I need 1 sec, sorry. Just 1 sec. Okay.
Good. Advantage of this construction, Trump is for the culture of uncertainty around the protection of project labor agreements, reaching total ban and brand 25 by NEG, mandated PLAs, avoided disruptions, such stoppages, strike, walk, SMBO, challenge, COC, held mandates, stealing by violence, SICA, DOD, and GS, under Trump, creating division, derivatives, and exceptions, mandates, state officials, no use PLAs, construction, voter revoke, orders from Trump, cast ban, and enforceability, revoking the supporting the policy behind PLAs, and use with expectations, wholesale, bidding, by mandate, by house, memorandum, government agencies, by PLA, limit competition of price, or higher agency support, determination, of reasonable pricing, cannot be achieved, Trump, so we can implement by mandate, widens the loophole further laws, neglected PLAs, and strengthening pre-hire CBAs, reverses the adversarial nature of bargaining construction that has calcified the promotion of strikes and the erosion of bargaining rights. Austin 25 BS grow out of declining unionization, lack of federal labor law, alternative better agreements, and charter agreement. Employer agrees to remain neutral. Its employees determine representation, contract provision, LPS, help unions avoid election, making unionization easier, improve retention, wages, LPS create. Let's also work environments and create attempts towards higher quality production, forces party negotiate tailored terms at every granular level, forces employers at the bargaining table, which allows labor to win concessions. Section 8 for the NLR less construction to make pre-hire agreements, safe for buying all contract and subcontractor, guarantee employees benefits, negotiation provisions that guarantee against strikes and lockouts. All stakeholders benefit for increased costs and predictability on time completion in one supply chain. Labor rest is endemic to construction back in 20 labor on risk consequences of inflation. Current economy presents high potential strikes of construction. Historically, strike run 22% of all strikes involve project delays of unrest was caused by unfair practice on exclusive refuse to enter collective bargaining strikes. Challenging projects with no guarantee of compensation. Working alongside labor to mitigate on risk and manage in construction. Labor disruptions cascade through the supply chain, erode the flexibility necessary to absorb inevitable black swan events or these 25 black swan events. Cascading disruption in construction supply chains, particularly vulnerable to COVID risk and now exposed infertility, labor shortages, play manufacturers, necessary supply chains, and impeding production worker. Please go to clearanceization, signal president, uncertainty, contractual disputes, supply chain disruption, imposing immeasurable costs, future events, unpredictable and catastrophic consequences, delay or labor shortages, cascade through the entire project, leading to overruns and delay, interdependence, amplify industry's vulnerability to BSCs and strikes alone cause cascading disruptions. Navies and 25 construction projects are more interconnected than ever. Skilled labor from a variety of sources, any link in the supply chain breaks due to labor strikes or results in empty supply chain. The construction disruption in real time and timelines inflate budgets, sparking disputes, and ushers in existential weaponization risk that causes the basis of infrastructure and security. Sherwood and 24 ensuring supply chain underpins essential as security. Small recuperation of U.S. radical shifts, aggressive components, conceptualized vectors, exploit weaponize risk, supply chain disruptions, manifest ripple effects, and anarchy, policy, security, but supply, severe repercussion, competitiveness, innovation, military readiness, aggressive warning, excellent supply chains, economic independence, equality, warfare, stage weaponized, supply chains, change, retaliation, Chicago Islands, get a wider pattern, and critical catastrophic state operation, highly interconnected systems upon which states are dependent on non-linear nature of supply chain and necessitates understanding of production integrates with critical evidence. Scientific theories weaponize risk induced directly within supply chain does not require specific targets on supply chain, increases aggregate risk insufficient to as LNG construction cost and schedule overruns structurally blocks the transition to LNG does not get on 18 large number of construction projects underway or past without infrastructure wherever the risk increasing LNG capacity construction by overruns and costs and scheduling and transition to lower carbon fuels, significant overruns increase common place within LNG contributing to severe costs doubling upstream capital costs and labor costs are preventing LNG projects from getting off the ground. Hoffman and 2416 plants on the drawing board, 500 development loan produced enough to anything as the topics were for years. Labor cost question, viability projects creating call problems getting off the ground, holding back LNG's dominance construction budgets, exporting squeezing returns, jeopardizing financial viability and absence short up LNG production, East Asian energy security craters, Webster, $1.35. Middle East LNG outages benefit the DRC, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, wholly relying on LNG, and of course, outages benefit US LNG, damage East Asian economies around maximize ocean pain and production, need to incentivize gas production, export projects can be considered further confrontation may be determined by East Asian energy security and sustained energy. East Asian energy security calcifies nuclear latency and escalatory diffusion of nuclear adjacent capabilities. The sign 313 East Asia, diffusion of nuclear adjacent capabilities, civilian development, deployment, flashpoints, nuclear shield, and store China's nuclear modernization, hedging, and South Korea, Japan, readiness, output exposure, nuclear armed assets, Asia's interest in acceptance of nuclear technologies driven primarily by energy security concern. Risk entangling civilian infrastructure, strategic level, new phase of nuclear risk defined by latency, proximity, adjacent combination, shortened timeline to weapons, infrastructurally embedded in fuel exemptions, normalized high cost of acquisition, declines non-proliferation, weakness of Asian states, pursuit new civilian nuclear energy, made great power combination, proliferation, emerging in Asia, Vietnam, USS, Japan, South Korea, pursue nuclear weapon against backdrop of mounting energy insecurity, concerns changing, energy demands, lower barriers, and promising safety, flexibility, entangling energy with geopolitical alignments, expand nuclear infrastructure, lower barriers for nuclear hedging, and absent robust LNG is Europe's last hope for securing energy before the winter, but scale on 317 closure of the Strait of worse Europe's gas storage must be replenished, depends heavily on LNG imports, below 30% polar winter push and storage must reach 890. We predict Qatar shut down shipments, US exports becoming Europe's most important diversification goal. Policy makers anticipate replacing volume without US LNG, given calmly Europe's plans increasingly fragile. Europe finds itself in 2020 heavily reliant on US LNG. Otherwise, energy insecurity gets weaponized, risking hybrid war, NATO-Russia confrontation, and climate abandonment. Zero collective survival in the weapon 25 energy systematically weaponized into hybrid war, generating gas and global repercussion, including food security, developing nations, incentivizing global revival, employment, NATO-Russia tensions, underlying climate judgment, economic instability, the irreversible setbacks and global shifts, sustainable energy, empirical, and findings of firm great power guys, whether resources goals to maximize gains for beryllium energy, zero summer interdependence, race vulnerability, US exports, capture, LNG dependencies, can become weapons, cutoffs, infrastructure, sabotage, energy security, is a core dimension of collective survival, and fragmented global order, legacy extends far beyond Europe, revealing multipolar energy landscape holds world stability hostage and protected. PLA solve one cost overruns and productivity decline. Glass in 23 PLA supply high quality delay removal class costs is obviously hamper productivity leading to delays and cost overrun. Construction workers on strike for 38,560 days. Nationwide no strike condition for ensure work proceeds move up. PLAs pay forms for wages and work condition agreements not increase job projects on the workers more productive harmonization schedule 40% more productive lower turnover fewer shortages reduction in project costs and due lengthy project timelines. Petrucci at 126 and PLAs associated reduction in project duration of 15 to 17%, 43% more likely to be complete following the year than non-PLA project shorter timelines, scales and cost of labor and restarting quicker, reversing the productivity laws of far beyond far-reaching implication on economic well-being, and advantage to its infrastructure. The systemic erosion of pre-hire collective bargaining rights, foil uptake of PLAs reduces employment, zeros bargaining power. Only a restoration can reverse the damaging in 25, 28 states where PLAs protected labor legislation of PLAs shape cross industries will over significant decline in construction employment immediately following PLA restriction. Negative effect as persistent remains for near substitution effect between hours and number of workers. Restriction on the use of PLAs increase the unemployment by construction workers. Bargaining power weakened by restrictions on CBAs. Decline wage increases overtime incidents. PLAs in construction project balancing labor protection and cost reduction necessity. Extended labor protection for PLA integrates bargaining power. Standardized protection on non-permanent work. One is electrification, reverting LPA protections to Biden's XO spurs uptake of electricity transmission project funding conditional on LPAs that ensures effective build-out of diversified electrification. Real House in 25 utilizing LPAs to implement the IRA can require LPA PLAs incentivize LPAs conditions. Speaking on the inclusion of LPAs, Biden's extreme be upheld as permissible and incentivize electricity and transmission infrastructure. 50152 makes $760 million available for siting transmission lines for IRA funds to negotiate LPS or transmission project energy infrastructure. Efficiency subsidizes qualified electrification of projects and influx of investment in electrification will involve coordination of contractors, subcontractor agencies, condition contracts, participation in rebate program agreements of LPS to which ensure efficient implementation projects as well as standardizing pain safety and effective transmission build-out calcifies grid reliability. McGeady in 23 new transmission laws electricity produced by wind and solar in rural areas reduce under the demand resource cannot be connected to transmission capacity exists massive bottleneck to expand transmission contributing to grid reliability and regional capacity represents improvability to share surplus to generation shipping into where it's most needed inadequate capacity creates constraints and limits crucial and averting black gas sharing needs to scale to maintain grid reliability. Otherwise, inevitable grid failure is existential. For Corny and 26 multi-factor physical infrastructure, demand vulnerabilities, and go back to risk assessment, inadequate for capturing good for fragility, severe weather, producer, correlated failures, simultaneous overwhelming redundancy, mutual assistance, aging, generation, transmission, distribution, demand, growth, outstrips capacity, creates localized stress, amplifying reliable degradation, online or compounding effects, characters of permanent fragility, no study, integrate full spectrum, threats, indicate impact, assessment, fragility, constitutes, first order national security, the roads defense, depends on commercial growth for 99% battle crude, nuclear, CNC, mobilization, production, directly exposed outages, compromise, readiness, weapons, and communication, backup, design for short emergencies rather than extended outages by wastewater, telecommunication, and healthcare experience, complete grid filling the foundation, lifeline for child critical infrastructure, defense, cascading failures, compounding exponentially with duration, China, Iran, with period, target infrastructure problems, there's no asymmetric vulnerability, adversaries exploit to a semiconductors, codifying LPA protections, creates an impetus for uptake in semiconductor manufacturing, which guarantees infrastructure, build out CWA 2013 milestone for semiconductor manufacturing, labor agreements covering construction work, LPA major step towards stability, productivity, and sustainability in semiconductor production unions, essential for prosperity of semiconductor agreement is game changer, setting precedent for LPA is crucial in semiconductor manufacturing, delivery dispute 7, prevent impact on operational loss of revenue, reputational damage, regulatory sanctions agreements, mitigate risk created by productive environment, driving the company innovate, competitive jam, bring production home, and build the foundation of innovation, BRCBS, development of chips, securing the right to collectively bargain, and decoupling U.S. dependency on East Asia chips, prevents nuclear confrontation, acts as a bulwark against Taiwan invasion, that's our 25 war between China and U.S. controlled by semiconductor ecosystem, China, East Asia, versus 90% of all the beverages, semiconductors, and larger chips, so we can wait for what's relies heavily on production, transportation, to semiconductor, unprecedented concentration, manufacturing, DCLA, semiconductor, military control, and balance, military capabilities, destabilize, deterrence, nuclear war, the consequences of all beyond, foreground technology, Taiwan 7 minutes away from sharp unification, has pursued now you decision, China, semiconductor, provides protection, North Dakota protection, the United States federal government should substantially strengthen collective bargaining rights or pre-hire collective bargaining agreements for construction workers in the United States, and invasion alone causes extinction, prefer expert consensus, following 26 naval collection, that CS quickly escalates nuclear construction on the mainland, extensions order to that one sleepwalk towards in the conflict, all experts agree Taiwan is the most likely flashpoint or armed conflict, no chance of side advantage, blockade or invasion without the U.S. authority, any defense Taiwan has a prolonged time until the U.S. can come there, seems to be definite. Huang at definite, and I'm sorry at technology.
Okay, I'm gonna wait for the plan and then I'm gonna take it. Okay.
As long as you have that.
Okay. 914. You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Are construction workers covered under the NLRA currently?
Section 8F.
So the distinction between the plan and the SQO is what?
The distinction is that their project labor agreements or labor or peace agreements are not protected.
Why?
Because Trump has introduced, he's revoking a lot of policies behind Biden's executive order that had a PLA mandate on construction projects. So it's eroding the ability for LPAs.
So does the plan reinstate PLAs that have already been signed?
What do you mean, PLAs that have already been signed? Those are
Already
already
negotiated.
It protects those collective bargaining agreements and protects future negotiations for
What's the difference between a
pre-hire collective
CBA
bargaining
and a
agreements.
PLA? Are those the same thing?
A PLA is a pre-hire collective bargaining agreement. It is a CBA,
Okay.
and so is an LPA.
In that, why is construction different than any other industry in regards to if their agreement is protected or not?
Well, because construction operates on contractual basis, so like they have to sign a contract, especially for federally funded projects, where they have to agree on the budget, on wages, hours, working conditions, and all those things require intense negotiations with workers, which is different than every other sector because collective bargaining rights in every other sector is mediated by the employer-employment relationship. But in the context
Okay,
of,
does the plan change the penalties for infringing upon unions?
it would be
organizing?
sufficient to prevent union busting.
The plan does increase penalties?
Well, they would be sufficient to prevent union
Yes,
busting.
yes or no? Plan
Circumvention is a non-starter because of durable fiat.
What are you durably fiating? Increase
The plan
penalties?
text.
In the plan text. Okay.
Yes.
LNG is low now. What card do you think says that?
Balsic.
Your card from 2019
And
says LNG low now.
Hoffman's from 2 years ago.
Okay, it says labor costs are high. What card says that?
It says that literally 16 plants are on the drawing board, and 5 of them, which is key, quote, enough to rank the United States as the world's top exporter for years, are not getting off the ground because labor costs are questioning viability of those projects.
Okay. the reason you solve this advantage is by preventing strikes over PLAs.
That's just for supply chains. LNG is based on reducing labor costs and shortening project
Supply
timelines.
chains is solved by stopping strikes.
No. Yeah.
Why would collective bargaining decrease labor costs?
Pre-hire collective bargaining agreements have no strike and no lockout clauses in exchange for the employer agreeing to wages, hours, and working conditions.
So they have to pay higher wages. So why would the labor costs go down?
So one, productivity. Two, the argument is that those disruptions themselves are so costly that at like a level of cost-benefit analysis,
Okay, so
overwhelming.
again, it's just strikes are bad.
Well, I mean, you asked me how we solve.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
like
the
that's the internal
electrification thing. Okay, is there a scenario like if we win strikes don't happen? Can you win? Is there any scenario you win?
About strikes at all.
Okay, what do you need to solve to win this advantage?
Protecting LPAs to create the uptake of electricity transmission projects.
Why are
off
LPAs
federal
keeping
funding.
that other than like they prevent
Because
strikes?
IRA funding is under the Biden executive order that the AFF reverses back to is conditional on the inclusion of labor peace agreements.
Like why? Agreements keep.
That's how the executive order was written. Like he wanted to prioritize unionization in construction, so
Wait,
he had
sorry,
the
we gotta
executive order.
take prep for this. We're at 9:20. Like
Yeah.
other than strikes, why would
The
LPAs?
entire second advantage is that uptake of LPAs or unions are good because the inclusion of those LPAs is the only way to get one, federally funded electricity transmission projects built out, and two, chips funded semiconductors.
They're bargaining over if federal funding applies to new transmission
No,
lines.
that existed in Biden's language of the executive order that Trump has eroded, that the plan reverts back to.
Okay.
Ban unions does not solve the second advantage.
855.
One CSEC. The order is 8, the construction advantage, the infrastructure advantage.
I'm sorry, what order was the case?
Advantage 1, construction, advantage 2, infrastructure. UTD's good. Panel good. First off, the United States federal government should ban unions and fund and develop its natural gas pipeline in Alaska to compete by making collective bargaining non-exist polar. According to the university recognized definition, CBF for this definition, CBF does not exist in where it retains power to establish wage hours and conditions like this under the union general strike is coming on the counterplan solves at Han. 26 general strike may be closed at first glance. It sounds impossible when coordinated strikes in both 16 most close to anything we relate. The government speed on charge or disrupt actions. For example, 26 critical unions coordinate campaigns and ensure such unions are to be fully up to organize fight back. General strikes 1 topple the economy, topple the government. 2 collapse the economy, and 3 hollow out unions. Decapping unions now solves Thomas. 22 general strike confuse the economy, not just the economy, but all life factories out the operate not just in taxes and drivers and stuff. Industries not effects happen during arms train strikes stations back to do coordinator strike out of the majority of the workforce unions and absolutely centralized as in France and many other organizations that can do the job more disruption design. This means success only general strike out that there was a flop they gave up after 9 days. The union failed that negotiating agreement with the government. That was set unions back here to general strike and attacking against the political system and power change legislation to make that and make checking the general strike to stabilize the economy, the political sphere of the power. The general strike is the power to solve the government. The government is likely to follow government breakdown triggers fast nuclear war in every theater stars. 24 the concern home political balance and foreign policy experts worry about the political balance in the United States democracy will take a hit. One of the US practice would reach down to take advantage of it to pursue regional and not for the US to be distracted by internal turmoil and political balance as getting to water conflict European gas as how to more from the conflict created and also when the US has it eventually the long capacity to surround the world and to become a lot of it become also in America comes to political balance. Economic decline leads to extinction leads to extinction helps books 24 when the US needs the world gets equal to between the centrality that all the ones that works on the market US remains at the center of the economy for the decline on the other side that is where we can concerning the world and go from colonies where they address aggressive requirements to the research and that the ability facing challenges and where was an allocated kind of one of the responsible times in international isolation and economic satisfaction. It brings war only the counterplan solves exports presumption regime. 22 the North Scope can liberty with the gas for international market and exports on West Coast and the critical infrastructure for the Alaska analogy enable the U.S. would effectively serve allies in Asia and Europe. Next off, if the United States should be a tripartite lawmaking to facilitate collective bargaining for pre-hire collective bargaining agreements for construction workers in the United States and agree with the union every negotiation and raise the minimum wage for all workers in half of each states and median full-time wage index to regional price consumer index and increase employment law enforcement including raising penalties for increasing agency resources and adopt stricter workplace standards, safety standards including not least in the construction, liquid, and natural gas, electricity, and semiconductor industries and guarantee paid sick leave and expand unemployment insurance and ratify amendments to the United States Constitution to substantially strengthen the collective bargaining rights for PR, collective bargaining agreements for construction workers in the United States via commission and adopt the worker majority code determination system for corporate governance mandating just cause protections on determination procedure for employees that are serving on reward tripartite assaults and 24 federal commission days of an obvious unionization after law price to make decisions on labor relations and market participant tripartite boards and domestic work workers and officials that which and working conditions specific to the sector states and directly solve the case code 25 states regional which regional cost of language political conscious with increase of fund Minnesota attorneys that authority dispute records that impose an investigation data in New York that authority dispute violated financial assets essentially record bargaining laws central United States and the Aboriginal workers that 13 states that are represented in capital states there was a start to be voters approved by basically 18 states representation consults and opposed midterm scholars 25 article that the states of the constitutional convention on application to the states the convention ratified by 3 process the report of our constitution cannot be denied delegates control the convention co-determination assaults training 25 co-determination and it takes away things like committees and more domestically ensure workers on skilled jobs the co-determination positive effect relations for the emission the reduction of emission of employees respondents say is enable the decision making co-determination companies increase related companies more significant is negative more investment in R&D and we consider companies that belong to long-term investment in action they might only have to show the proportional compensation coefficients and their positive effects on the wage levels and opportunity evidence to get a started in the situation with the greater power imbalance. Next off, the Democrats win the midterm non-prediction markets law. The 325 bipartisan bills kill the voter base for Democrats limit. The 2014 voters was submitted by the saddest hand of the NEG people, even though they heard so they will that would have to give equitable and effective legislative approach and integration of the exit the economic demolition of the motion as a definite initially can be worse than nothing on the like the voters and the one of the assurance that the deportation so the appearances that the decision to decide the JP's board, but the bills by person did more damage political hostility. Accommodationism, Democrat win blocks will net cost 25. Depending on space and share people of equal numbers, the feasible systems, but we have to the technology loss by people who get decided by 2026 election in the House. If those sit into the end protection money, a bunch of the golden for the golden and non-golden. It's essential hearts on 1127, the golden is not useful for defending new terms and using your hearts and it's in costly message and other opportunities and 127 for South of Ashton, like other after you have a public by defense. It's a unproven negative when the medical almost had a second most of the same significant fantasy engineering so there was something environmental political problems that are disability the ability to deal with the criticisms of our lives but accelerating for arms obviously they make their minds say the goal of just work and it will increase offensive forces space interceptors may not be able to block whereas if you capable of taking out the satellites as far as escalation at least the use of nukes next off interpretation after strict the rights of majority workers work as a full set hourly on the term workers means all employed people including all public employees that's 160 million and 25 million 160 million Americans with some form of employment that means it must cover 82 million workers that are prepared labor specific evidence Southern District of Texas 24 regarding space XD in other words the representation of the comparison between the part of the principal that Texas that covers an essential part of that whole because the majority of in California violation if they don't meet a violation they don't do every 50% of workers vote NEG one unique ground of price are changed from the status quo link unions is that if absolutely influence the size of the workforce well below existing unit density second is limits anything else leads to hundreds of industry and shop specific asks third is position strength of the right is determined by the number of workers covered in infringement running 95 miles of strength of the right is determined by the factors of a particular situation in the parties level in an infringement scenario next off CEOs are employee rights to bargain over rights to process and negotiations over wages, hours, conditions of employment. They are completely distinct from the terms of agreements for each case. If it pertains to the CEOs refer to employees right to designated bargaining for the representative rights. If it directs to wages, hours, and conditions of employment, CEOs are not subject to the terms of agreement as the face of process understood the required negotiation and over wages, hours, and terms yet. The violation of the AFF and outcome does not change the process of negotiation, but NEG, their interpretation destabilizes core literature and checks on affirmative act. Justifying the creation of the specific bargaining process outcomes that leave NEG ground with only concessionary ground that lacks uniqueness. Next off, the National Labor Relations Board should issue guidance documents clarifying collective bargaining rights for pre-hire collective bargaining agreements for construction workers in the United States. The federal judiciary should uphold that action as legal. The executive branch should support this action to compete, solve quicker, and avoid any delay, backlash, and state the debt zeros after solving talking. 5. Board policymakers will destabilize the judicial review on negotiation through Congress and issuing policy missions such as the rules of the office ruling, acknowledging and benefits the agency issues statements that are not binding, not soliciting comments the agency issue statements that immediately after usability caused by public comment procedures on judicial reviews. Case. Advantage 1, construction. 1. Black swans mean later cannot solve the words. 25. Black swan event on the supply chain history for examples like the Chernobyl disaster, 9/11 attacks, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Should they disrupt the impact of global supply chains? 2. Supply chains are resilient. Kapacic. A 24-degree restructuring of the industrial supply chain reflects resilience and adaptability in the face of external uncertainties. Companies continue to see opportunities for keeping up the margin of the restructuring through the delivery cost reduction and incentivizing growth policies and incentivizing the advancement of technology. Companies leveraging a multitude of strategies, diversifying suppliers, seeking new agreement implementing that to the digital technologies like supply chains. 3. Global trade and supply chains are strong despite U.S. tariffs. Casanova 317 in the U.S. Tariffs are the highest global trade is not collapse. Mark the card, I collapse. Now LNG 4. LNG is high now. 10. 323 U.S. gas exporters biggest beneficiaries of the Rhine Asia that are more reliant on the trade community staggering from closure to the demand searching for the U.S. LNG. 5. No Asia war Mahalski. 23 Asia has been created for the culture of practice and the issues of emphasis with alligator China considered Pakistan or South Korea, China, more Asian countries around the like future human major combination means unlikely governments recognize Asian centers the best opportunity to maybe expect their economies to prove that the situation will settle aside response to their government and enormous culture habitats. How the habits against how the leaders are trying to for the direction and maintain good relations with the states but really relatively perilous. No Russian adventurers on that baby M24 Russians and the people living on central Russian war against the Russian and also there's some stuff that is significant as the food and adventure aircraft presented in one again aircraft and they will lucky the Russian shipping lines the cost of Russia to Russia as they severely over states and individual states with the ability to access without triggering a war with NATO. Now advantage to grid damage is irreversible. Lambert 23 the grid is extremely reliable towers within it. We got to become our new basement when so they're drop them drag down the entire we don't get long duration outage they're able to recover quickly. Market card I recover quickly. No Taiwan war Gordon 922. Taiwan democracy and civil society are robust from the defense that attack the economy organizations with strong progress on any progress on defense even if you're the US working Taiwan could continue to forward.
Renewables are inevitable because the IRA
renewables are inevitable because the IRA makes them profitable with tax systems. Good.
Did you cut that grid card?
The grid card was cut, yeah. It was cut I recovered quickly.
Status of the offer.
Conditional against me.
What are the net benefits to the state's counterplay?
The net benefits
Can you face toward us?
Yes. Sorry.
Don't know what your conditionality answer was.
Conditional against new. The net benefits to states are just midterms.
Okay, your link to midterms is bipartisan policies. Why aren't all of the planks bipartisan policies?
The planks are state policies.
I guess like
policies.
Okay, sure. The tripartite lawmaking, like, does that like require every governor to sign off on the counterplay, or like who does it?
Zach?
Yeah, the states are in the room bargaining with them.
All
They're
50 states.
third party. I mean,
Okay,
so what's construction like bargaining table? There's a state representative is there at the like the.
But this is like a mandate that every state issues like an independent member to the board, or like how does that work?
Whenever there's like whenever bargaining is
So
happening,
from like
states have
both sides of the
representatives.
aisle, there would be like this push for labor law.
On both sides.
Like both Republican and Democrat governors would like issue these members of the tripartite.
Like there would be an independent agency,
Okay,
but
sure.
then every government that puts them on board.
But we feel that they agree with the union.
Sure, the states what card says states can increase employment law protections, or are those points done by the federal government?
No, they're done by the states.
Okay.
That's cone.
Cone evidence says that Oregon increased funding, Minnesota gave a bunch of attorneys ability to subpoena records, and then gives more examples in Washington and Oregon, as well as California, for increasing violations or remedies for violations of employment law standards.
Sure, the Lotman card or the lot.
You didn't read anything after guidance, right?
No.
The lot card says 84% chance Dems win the House. The Leckman card says that bipartisan bill kills voter base for Democrats. Why is that enough to like sustain a 33% like betting odds margin?
Well, it would signal that Republicans are willing to, get away from the Trump agenda and vote for blue policies.
Like overwhelmingly flip essentially like sustain leads that Democrats had.
Well, like the
multiple
Democrats
races.
have a lead, but it's important to remember that like a week ago their lead was like 60% and now it's up to 80%. Our argument is that Democrats are structurally ahead, but there's still fluctuations, which didn't mean that any, black swans such as the AFF.
The general strikes counterplan, the Hahn evidence says that it's closer than we think. Why is and the reason why it says that is that there were like a dozen strikes. Why is that enough to topple the government?
The Hahn evidence says that there's momentum building for general strikes and that union organizers are talking about it, increasing their.
Why is that enough to
signal
topple the
that-
government? There's like
Well,
some organizers, there's like a few
The
hundred
Thomas
organizers that are
evidence says
striking.
that if those union organizers are successful in organizing a general strike, even if it's not an entire general strike, it would completely collapse.
Why
and
is
freeze all of those.
unionization key to a general strike? Why wouldn't Workers just
Yeah,
strike
our
out of their own
evidence is
will.
actually really good on it. It says, quote, unions are the only vehicles we have to organize a fight back.
So
It's
if there's
on
no
this
unions,
evidence
why wouldn't workers be incentivized to organize via other means?
because they would just get fired if they struck.
Unions is how they organize.
Yeah.
Sure. But
10. Thursday couldn't organize that shit.
where?
Give me the. It's where you work in my house. Give me the second card under QCPR.
What do you want me to
Just to have it.
hold it up to you? Oh, yeah, yeah.
To 11, sending. 7:49. Send. Order is construction disruptions advantage, which is advantage 1. Infrastructure advantage, which is advantage 2. T substantial.
Is that the first T argument since nothing was labeled?
Yes, first T argument.
Thank you.
T collective bargaining rights, which is the second one. The guidance counterplan, or the NLRB guidance counterplan.
So that was the last counterplan?
Yes, that was
round?
the last counterplan.
Thank you.
The band unions counterplan, which was the first counterplan. The states counterplan, which is the second counterplan. I'll just answer the planks in order. The midterms set. Is anyone not ready?
I don't know. Sure, so.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi just went out there, but it should be sent before my Wi-Fi went out. Let me reconnect. Yeah, it says it was sent.
What is this business? Is this solar panel?
Kind of looks like it. It's a second screen.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
a battery booster that completely slows down my computer. So it's way yeah. You wish it just got a normal laptop.
We're the
or something.
largest touchpad I've ever seen.
Does do that. Yeah. Don't start. But no, definitely not worth it.
Any update?
1 only construction absorbs black swans because it ensures that the ripple down effect does not go down to construction, which is key to infrastructural resilience. 2 NDT2, it's not resilient. Their defense assumes industrial strength, which depends on construction, which is our scenario. 1 NDT3, cut to far too early supply chain to failure and humanity adversarial organization of disruptions to undercut readiness critical infrastructure that escalates and casts constant interconnected security to share. 1 evidence 1 NDT4 are unique as exports are high now, but infrastructure can't keep up with demands, which ensures a supply glut now. 1 NDT5 does not assume energy and security concerns, plus East Asia stability and nuclear development that can contain nuclear evidence that calcifies nuclear latency and ushers nuclear just competition that risks escalation with North Korea, China, and dominant proliferation conceded. That's a high evidence. 1 NC6 not adversaries about weaponization of energy. Eastern European energy insecurity is weaponized by Russia, encouraging hybrid warfare escalates now. Russia war and preventable combat mitigation. Era affirmative empirical findings confirmed. Russia exploits resource control even if they're broadly not adventurous to maximize gains under zero sum energy defense. No lab evidence advantage 2. 1 and 2 1 cascades take out redundancy and segmentation, which is what their defense assumes. 1 and 2 renewables. NEG doesn't mean transition transmission sharing infrastructure is, which is key to ensure that failures do not cascade among multiple disconnected and fragmented grids. Grid failures systematically accidental multi-vector threats of infrastructure demand, weather and attack spread, blackout, zeros, readiness, nuclear control comms in every vector of critical infrastructure that's required to sustain dominance. That's the McCartney evidence conceded that U.S. dependence on foreign troops risks weaponization disruptions, creates military imbalances, destabilizes deterrence of nuclear war, and creates an impetus for Chinese advances. The uncharted evidence invasion independently demands U.S. confrontation, exits the SSS, and involves base civilian targeting the zeros that draws in allies and encourages nuclear strikes on both mainlands. It's long evidence. I don't think there will be defense in this, but if they did, it is zero because it depends on use intervention. T-Subs. Substantial number of workers means 2% self-imposed. It only is between labor forces and 1.2% of workers. Construction is 5.07% now. 24 to 88.3 billion construction workers in the United States. There's 165 million total workers. It's inserting BLS below, which is like 5 or something percent of total workers. Workers include subsets Oxford. The network of workers of workers, especially one kind of work. Strike that means an increase the incidence of rights from 82. Show the right to work with the number of interests of whatever quarter eliminates separation of fundamental quarter analysis. The natural of the overall rights substantially is followed by collective bargaining rights, meaning the rights must be substantial number of rights, not workers. Functional limits, ban rights, counterplan states, confirmation, clock, MQD, antitrust, and capitalistic show 4 for net condensation, literature, and soft to construct and control the direction of based on grammatical disagreements, collective bargaining rights are established around subsets over limiting fixed or immutable exemptions that doesn't exist because neural itself is ruled exemptions, theories, and viable because judge tries to arbitrariness, affirmation outweighs workers, subset adversity, hedges against unbeatable, substantial bargaining power changes, and insolvency objections, reasonability, the MS1 R model makes me united, untenable, otherwise arbitrary interpretation, color risk to the bottom, destroying predictability, TCBR. We meet the AFF only increases the right to the process of engaging in pre-hire collective bargaining agreements. Findings in the vacuum collective bargaining rights are the rights to the process. Rights 16 that collective bargaining rights are predicted what the just process of political distinction of collective bargaining defines under a person moving forward. They can collective bargaining agreements, collective bargaining rights are rights to the process. University something that health collective bargaining rights requires meaningful good faith negotiation with other terms and conditions of employment functional limits crossed by above literature and soft can check crossed by above over limiting crossed by above reasonability above. I'll give you some pet talk. Guidance counterplan. Permutation to permutation to the counterplan, permutation to the counterplan, then the affirmative permutation to the counterplan overrides. Sabresh will send out those texts. Counterplan that certainly links to the benefit, includes federal action and notably coalescing with the executive and the judiciary following on. Independently does not solve the affirmative. 1 disruptions are caused by uncertainty in the status quo. Labor to scale up without union protections because it ushers strikes at zero supply chains with the NLRB cannot change because there's a question of Biden's mandated executive order that was the only executive order that mandated protections of LPAs without the counterplan, resulting in that it is impossible to solve either advantage, which if they do is certainly permutation of the counterplan is 100. Ban units counterplan. Perm new boat shields, permutation of the counterplan, permutation to any combination of the planes, permutation of the counterplan, then the affirmative pipeline does not solve text to the LA key, no presumption because our scenario is about why they build out Gulf resilience, can't solve the disruptions that are caused by lack of unions, labor disputes that scale up without union protections, usher strikes and zeros, supply chains and knowledges, broader rehaus evidence to infrastructural unionization based on binding RPLA protections, ensure uptake, otherwise workers are weary of contractual union busting, provides energy, electricity expansion, and semiconductor build strategic evidence saying no, Trump administration hears the general strike to happen, then ushers eroded CBRs to union bust, fire workers, and block worker solidarity, that's our circumvention cards, and West 400 authorization, President Reach Parties, confirmed to strike in April, National Society, President Code of Labor Worship Review, direct out attorney energy suspend a strike without lockout or agreement, private sector, fairness voting issue for infinite number of private actors that go under process based on interrelated net benefits, still the entire 118 fiats to say no, strikes fairness to workers would end the strikes or really no political appetite to see a counterplan fiat striking for no apparent reason, there's no energy for workers to stand, legal lines without pay, can't change, Trump use executive orders, war powers, or separation of powers, conditionalities, voting issue, Stratsky and the responsibility research, disincentivize AF innovation, or AF offense, voted for fairness and AF flexibility, specifically solves by preserving the ability to kick if perms or theory, no theory, or top county in the block is the constant AF sandbagging. Sort of add-on, the uptake of PLA ensures successful build-out of clean energy infrastructure that meets climate targets. 723, breaking the ground for geometry solar, or social pushback and a halt construction on support of clean energy deployment. Jeopardizing the ability to meet climate targets. 53, projects in the 28 states that block expanding use of polymer labor agreements help create hurdles for developers, credit developers, climate change is existential docket. Actually, I'm not going to read that card.
Oh, yeah, so nice. Go back to the...
Oh, back to general strikes.
No general strikes in the status quo. 50% of the country voted for Trump. The hung countries by dozens of unions are going for a strike, not enough to strike now. And military solves. The states count. Or this is the states count. Or yeah, states count. Permutation of vote shields by being perceived as follow-on permutation of counterplan links and AFF can't solve strikes because it increases the presence of federal intervention over the lack of executive order protections, which the PLA court case, which the MLA court cases held as non-jurisdictional for LPS to exist now. To infrastructure build-up cannot happen over state funds because all of the projects are federally funded projects. Trump new NLRB is pursuing a bill to pursuing a preemption. Fox 26 judge granted NLRB retained jurisdiction agents result for requiring global regulation AB 2280 and regulatory sought to empower state regulatory labor emissions. So a federal court decision held NLRB is licensing the emergency preemption game plans section of jurisdiction consists of federal law, federal law, 50 state federal voting issue, fiat and deficits, and goes after debatability. Should party commissions get preempted? Let me send to NLRB facility and permits administrative for alternative forms of representation, state law, working councils being requiring central representation, Congress explicitly rejected conflict over such concern of federal regulation and industrial relations. The mandate would show how state labor laws are to debate a prohibition of company dominated union organization would be preempted size. Trump ordered expressly prohibited by the NLRA. Minimum wage does not solve construction workers, so bank beyond it. It doesn't solve productivity because fair wage is relative to the industry, not a standard of CPI. The employment law planks none of these solve. It's not increased productivity of over workers, prevent strikes, or pre-hire collective bargaining agreements. It's not happening because of a lack of wage protections, but a lack of protections over pre-hire collective bargaining agreements because they agree that the budget will always change after the infrastructure starts now, or certainly permutation of the counterplan solves because it is collective bargaining right. The counterplan permutation of the counterplan, the affirmative text inserted below and does not solve the affirmative for all the reasons above and links to midterms. Hostile 23 when constitutional amendment commander Douglas Christianity where the amendments are desired and noted nothing to the government convention to receive Trump in the back of the presidency for numerous evidence MAGA as unified concern independence committee in the past court strike it down or water down card above and fiating limited constitutional convention is voting issue fiat of some citizens and isn't called upon anyone. Literature damage is already done. The co-determination plan does not solve anything because of that they cannot co-determine over the way that labor project agreement or that federally funded labor construction projects get funded now. That is key to infrastructure uptake for the second image and can negotiate over strikes, which does not go called by co-determination. Their card is 0 on those midterms. Uniqueness overwhelms the House. Every front page select poll if it's effective is affirmative inserting solar 227 below gas prices lever 321 president price of Republicans are in the trouble costing support of Latino voters and liberal class voters will cause an selection for Republicans. Iran billion 35 Iran is pulling badly kick up gas prices fighting the coalition turned into a blue wave into a tsunami. The Trump is additional Amsterdam to war 70 grounds on breakaway black swans and their lasting effects outweigh the plan cost 26 Mark Gillette has forced his policy changes midterms because those come from black swans and global so the shock caused by crisis in Iran pushing up oil prices into China receiving chemical breakthrough artificial intelligence major on Taiwan, Russia, Kentucky, sees territory. He rings it. Sorry, 26. Elections will not be free and fair. Working the executive action intimidation and interference from public transfer election comes to the NEG circumventing voting itself cuts CISA weaponization of federal power retaliating against federal officials, cut the carded officials, no link voters are electrical law construction of CVAs, no affected houses are realigned over labor now via proven via Hawley, no vote switching back at 25 study funding responsibility ideologies meaning to limit the precision effects of voter restriction mobilization greater benefits incumbency fundraising and report competition like record period of outcomes golden dome no space war impact they don't have a warrant for it we get new terminals whenever they read one evidence get close to a terminal so this word cell that says it causes war defense failing golden dome is can prevent Russia and China false complaint attacks does go nuclear but there's no risk of escalation and independently causes cellular proliferation. According to 5 they may for American first strike option there's a general homeland vulnerable none of these stability backed by nuclear coercion launch because some border Europe since China and American because nuclear obstacle threat in Taiwan Moscow Beijing appeal to air and missile defense China based on president decided to back down RW defeats the risk of its limited like heat strikes defense would deter any attack will then be faced with a choice going big threaten leaders militaries and industries iron dome contribute to assurance so SOCO leaders can take matters of their own building and nuclear weapons so sparking arms race in Asia tech will greatly improve multiple interceptions bringing the chest goes 100% and holding discipline with missile incentive and be preferred on certain danger deterrence of assurances so many fierce small scale behaves with Star Wars and lead to peaceful conclusion of war. China and Russia are already facing East Asian proliferation impact in the YAC, Taiwan invasion impact in the YAC, cross-fly boat disease, no terminal impact to it. Their warrant for this is that it trades off with the material increase in spending on things like disease and warming, which is not happening under the Trump administration and won't happen under future administrations regardless. Pandemics, there's no impact to it because of burnout and warming. We have an internal link to it that we read on the banned unions counterplan.
I answered that.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. The theoretical reasons to reject the team were fiating a constitutional conditionality and no neg theory in the block.
That's not a reason to reject the team unless
It's
there's
just
neg theory.
Okay.
But there's also 50
50
state fiat
Are we able to answer neg theory or half theory in the block?
with like reverse voting issues.
No. Just like are we able to answer?
Yeah, you
theory
can
issues?
answer our.
So it's like no new halves in the block.
Okay,
Cool.
it's just like no new topicality or
Okay.
like theoretical objection, like no aspect in the block.
Okay, I want to ask about the ban unions counterplan. You said Trump says no to AFL-CIO strikes. Why does this matter?
Well, I actually said general strike. That's the no.
Okay, so Trump says no to a
What
general
did I
strike.
say?
At no point have we claimed that a general strike results in gaffe. Actually, you said general strikes
Well,
are
yeah,
bad
that's
and
our-
collapse union power. So Trump says no to them is a neg argument. What is
What,
what
I,
else
like
is
this
that?
is no, this is nonsense. Your argument is that general strikes collapse the economy broadly because those strikes were successful
Okay.
enough to scale up to destroy the economy. Our argument is that he blocks them before they can gain any momentum.
Your argument is that Trump won't like do the things that labor is asking for. Why does that? Why do you
No,
think that
the
means that
argument
Trump
is that he
will?
circumvents strikes under his rights under the Taft-Hadley Act, and also rights under the national security exemption, that if strikes threaten the national health and security of the United States, he has the express right under presidential
Do
powers
you
to
think the
strike those
Weissman
down.
evidence substantiates this?
Yes, it literally says almost exactly what I just
Okay,
said.
it says authorizes the president to intervene. What is that intervention?
And it says in the context of health of the nation.
Okay, so in the instance of a general strike, Trump does what? Deploys the military domestically?
Probably.
Okay, cool. That's perfect. You said private sector fiat. Where have we fiated the private sector?
I mean, if you don't, then it doesn't link, but our argument is that general strike would likely require 50-state fiat. Or a private actor fiat. Because, you know, independent unions are private actors.
Okay. I want to ask about the midterms disadvantage. So you said this turn about Golden Dome being good. The Kronig evidence, why does Golden Dome prevent South Korean prolif?
The warrant is that proliferation only happens via preemptive long-range strikes on the homeland. They view that as a threat from North Korea and China. A robust ballistic missile defense in the United States prevents China or Russia from
Where
risking
do
that in
you
the context
think
of the U.S.
you've read uniqueness that they believe the U.S. nuclear arsenal is credible, that we would launch DMD and stop a strike?
Groening is very good on that.
Where do you think it makes this claim? I get that it says defense would deter an attack. It
They
says
fear
actually in the
strong
status quo,
defense gives America a first strike option.
a line from the card is SOCO leaders.
Well,
choosing
it
to
literally
act
says
in
they
their own
fear
hands.
America's first strike option, which is the definition of deterrence. That's one line.
Adversaries fear an American first strike.
Yes,
Okay,
that is
why
a line
is
in the
why is Golden Dome necessary for first strike?
Well, no, it's not as necessary for first strike. It's that under a scenario where we have robust ballistic missile defense, if Russia are trying to preemptively attack the homeland, they'd be so existentially scared that we would launch a first strike back at them.
Why does second strike not equally deter? Wait, we would launch a first strike
Well,
in
it
response
could,
to
and it could
first
also
strike?
be a second strike, but our argument is
Okay,
that
so why does second strike not solve
the
this?
only that's not intrinsic to your scenario. Your scenario doesn't cause second strike, so this question is
yes,
confusing.
you're saying second
But-
strike is the status quo and that it's sustainable and not escalatory.
Well,
why does
yeah,
it not
but
solve adversary?
Golden Dome doesn't result in first strike. Like, I'm confused. Our scenario is that deterrence ability is credible in the SQUO, which only BMD bolsters.
Okay, good night.
No, 8:55.
Thank you.
Did you read the climate impact?
I didn't read the terminal, I read the internal link.
construction advanced to infrastructure.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, band, guidance, state.
Guidance is the NLRB thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, then case and order, construction and infrastructure.
And how much time do you have left?
340.
340. Good. We good? Okay. Choice you want to do both. You can't. The cabinet bans all units to speech exclusive because ban prohibits the plan to require 19 bans signed to prohibit. By any unit to necessitate banning collective bargaining as well. Collective bargaining is defined as negotiations between an employer and a union. That's the quote university recognized definition. That's the real evidence. So the cabinet does ban units, and I'm not reading a new card because they drop that definition. If they interpret the plan as nullifying, or that permit nullifying the plan, that severs every topical mandate, which is a voting issue. Permit the counterplan that severs. If it bans collective bargaining and says units are bad, it's anti-topical. If the first principle then just vote NEG on jurisdiction, they say perm do combo. They say all of our perm answers or do both because it's equally mutually exclusive. But only if the second plan fails to solve that benefit because it allows units to continue to exist. They say perm counterplan, then the app solves none of ourselves because the counterplan bans the plan, so you could never do the app. Also, it's intrinsic because they can always sequence the plan to delete disats, and it severs the plans that you see as per with how they fit the plan in the 1AC. Okay, the deficit. The counterplan just clearly solves the entire case. First, the pipelines plank. It does pipelines in Alaska. The 1AC Hershey card says that the North Slope in Alaska alone can deliver 3 billion cubic feet of gas per day. They said the words Texas to LA Key, but literally no more at all. Even if it wasn't the 1AC, certainly wasn't in the 2AC, so I'm not reading new cards here, and we certainly solved the LNG scenario. We solved disruptions, absent units, a general strike. Any strike, for the matter of fact, is impossible. They are the only vehicles that can coordinate campaigns to get buy-in from the whole workforce. The campaign, unions cannot help workers to dues membership immediately dry up. That's how it's in the 2AC. It's not going to say lack of units solves, or the reason strikes happen because construction workers have units now after 1AC cross-strikes, so that's clearly not the reason. The campaign ends the third strikes, working 25 strikes, represent the single source of disruption of lost units, or the threat of something, and we did actions false more single, rich best environment, rich verse also general strike can't succeed without organized labor. Patrol 26 general strike requires workers organize across people to introduce the whole activity general strike. We organize labor unions provide battle for the day of truth, and they mobilize people in the unions and those who want a labor leaders coordinate local unions are organized to bring in broader movement. Unions are the only way to anchor and organize the entire workforce. Boost 25 what's needed. That can make these efforts to see unions powerful and reliable center. We cannot pull off a strike without union leadership development. Movement organizations have real basis. Thinks that obviously not anchor to alignment. That is about building power. Okay, they say the infrastructure deficit. They cannot explain the interlink to this advantage to other than it's about strikes, which the campaign clearly solves. The campaign equally makes workers happy, but for our ad, there only seems intuitive because the status quo bias. When we have 24 people have status quo bias, unions have power to say the speech and discrimination challenge them. If it's not existent, someone proposed them, they would be right organization. The subjectives would be bad. There's simply better ways to help workers out. Supporting labor unions without unions, businesses will still try to maintain worker peace. First, worker committees, 124 without unions, businesses keep working hard to raise just pay and conditions in non-adversarial setting, wages and working conditions that are responsive to labor competition. 124 competition. When it comes to the labor market, firms can't make payments on the dollar. The same true for working conditions. Firms need to attract workers who have the option of going elsewhere. Okay, they say no. I have no idea what they're talking about. The counterplan unilaterally bans all unions, so no one needs to say yes or no to the counterplan. This arg is about when strikes happen, workers get replaced, which is our point that strikes are bad because they harm workers. The Whiteman card is again so negative. It's just that strikes are bad, not because Trump will replace workers, not that workers won't do them. So this can't be an argument. A general strike is coming now. It's systematically underestimated because unions are working behind the scenes. That's on evidence. Any card that says otherwise just proves unions have a strike where they want us. May 1st is D-Day. Unions are key. Alpha 26 is general strike. We were talking about May 1st. Unions would do that. Unions across the country will moments of general. May Day general strike. CA, you expect unions to take major strike action. Union leaders are leveraging union national elections 3 minutes away to a general strike. That means the DA is quicker than the case time frame first because 4 events rely on more links to meet solving factors. They're inherently less probable. General strikes are inevitable and this growth relies on organized labor. Such shuts down the country for weeks. 12 to 26 organized labor cases shut down economic social life. And general strike over which are violence and inflation shut down sources for weeks. The general strike is just a matter of time. General strike or econ politics will become unhinged. Something the power will empower the general strike. Minnesota was the turning point. PR 26 here. The numbers for ice created crisis. They call it taken out from all the sectors. This is how general strikes emerge. They can happen again today. They say private sector fiat. The kind of plan is clearly on the USFG. So we meet this interpretation. They say workers end strikes early. No card at all for this. They're answering our general strikes bad or good kind of plan, which you read at the Georgetown tournament. But this is general strikes bad kind of plan. So this is totally not responsive, as well as their Trump using X ISO things. This is our point for why it would harm units. Condo, it's good if only versus new apps. One flex, no risk options. Keeps in the game against undisclosed new plans, which are an independent voting issue because they raise pre-round prep. If they have artificial advantage and insulated from premeditated strategy speed, new theory, intuitive because it's constructive. Second, arbitrariness, non-race theory is infinitely aggressive or unpredictable and crowd-out substance, so it's always reason to direct argument, not the team. Third, not specifying an agent leads politics into engagement. That's another voting issue. They said now defense at worst, logic remedy is thinking it with a counterplan. We'll concede reasonability applies here on to condo. Strategy is good for smart time allocation, quick thinking, and efficiency. To level speed and T diminishing returns to all their offense. Still lead to our offense because the 2C picks the 2 and R. It forces process goals to force purposes in the case of the strats. There's no definition, so it's meaningless. Okay. They say the add-on in turn, there's no impact to this because they didn't read it in the 2AC, so that they don't get to say warming caused extinction in the 1 arc that's brand new and it's a rebuttal. It's also the same link as advantage 2, which I'll answer that later below. Okay, yes, general strikes and people voted for Trump. They're turning against him now driven by midterms ridiculous, which is the 1 and R, so it's entirely uncarded. Okay, they just forgot impact defense. The they said is that 100 general strike causes extinction because it causes state failure, which outweighs China, Russia. In North Korea views general strike as a window opportunity to escalate regional aggression and attract the U.S. can. Foster global peace. That's the SARS evidence. Growth outweighs one peace dividend. Growth enables cooperation on every external risk. Drop autoways on magnitude. Second, war, downturn, syrup, nationalist aggression, causing the U.S. to escalate a hotspot, separate environment. It's nuclear private conflict. That's proposed evidence. So you're certain that if a general strike happens, it guarantees immediate nuclear war faster than the case. Okay, a general strike makes absolvency impossible by May 1st. The campaign may seem anti-worker at first, but it's all inevitable. If a general strike is allowed to proceed, then dropping any warrant is presumption because the general strike becomes before the first strike contracts even get considered because it takes months to negotiate a contract, but May 1st happens before that. First, the strike itself, it causes mass exodus from the units after the government. Stonewalls it. That's the Thomas evidence. Second, government collapse nullifies enforcement even with durable fiat. Both parties will assume the contract. It's unenforceable because the government will be absent. That's Starry's third economic decline. Triggers corporate application of contracts. And right enforcement by 15 contracts reflecting which is on federal rights. Decreases states and total laws for labor corporations do not protect rights in the absence of person actively subvert rights. Fiat can't solve because enforcement is not in the plan. It would not be topical. Already 21 legislation rights around peace and like sports. The classic amount of silicon couple off from the rule. Slate and country rights and recruiting running remedies. Fourth, automation. General strike leads to fast and wholesale automation. Just in 2026, just in the run between that. Hence the total relationship between automation to labor and stability. That zero to organized labor to 312 as it is protective. Targets of organized labor. Workers are by automation. Dispense their kind of levers that go against is constructed. That will render organized labor obsolete. Okay, guidance counterplan. And it will be counterplan. Pick it, not going for it, theory, rejecting argument, enough team, presumptions totally dropped. The plan draws backlash from the GOP court tool due to debilitating judicial review that delays implementation for years, plus Congress defunds the NLRB, making enforcement impossible. That's when he talked with Tag explicitly said this is zero insolvency, and the 2ACs chose to say 0 words. There's nothing the 1 ER can do to come back to this. They say it's kind of plan, pick it, not going for it, theory, reject argument, not the team because we conceded reasonability applies. Okay, advantage 1, construction. 1 and C1, all costs of supply chain collapse. 1 and C4Ts list the black ones for us, like nuclear meltdowns, terror attacks, and pandemics, which that absolutely can't solve. Goals by such are inevitable, and construction cannot absorb them because those things make construction impossible. 1 and C2 supply chains are resilient. Diverse suppliers are instrument methods, meaning everyone can always adapt to any situation. Tech advancements ensure speed recoveries. That's Kilpatrick. Afters or the overview didn't answer any of our warrants. Goal frame for all act uniqueness. Now, PLAs have been weak for decades. There's no reason why everything all of a sudden collapses now. Our supply chains are unbreakable. I told this in 715. Firms are better than ever dealing with shock government software and precedent. Protection bottlenecks remain in line with the average in the face of Trump's trade war. Fairly rates been trading time out on supply chains are professionally run through. Plus, like logistics, global region cutting, and warehousing and transport communications. Enable rerouting. LNG is high. They drop armaments from March 23rd and it says that it's in the production. It's quote surging. And you thought that counterplan certainly solves it. Okay, no age of war. They're stable. Everyone is financially independent because of ASEAN and free trade agreements, which is so energy insecurity alone cannot be a reason to go to war. Every party intentionally enjoying these institutions because no one wants war. That's a Malvia evidence of answers their stuff. Advantage 2. Electrification's inevitable, not even Trump can stop it. Whole house and 24. And bright spots, global source of renewable energy. I don't think that we're seeing happening no matter what Trump does. Trump got regs, but without them, the wind and solar are the cheapest even turn into there. Getting away from also the trend that will continue all the way to net zero. Basically, we did secure clean energy. The only question is how fast renewable rev is inevitable. Their evidence says that the IRA was good for PLAs, not the other way around. The PLAs are necessary for renewable transition. The evidence just surely does not say what their tags say that is. The great impact, it's wrong, it's hard, resilient, and reliable. It's segmented into 3 regions, so a nationwide blackout is physically impossible. Even if blackouts do occur, the system is designed to recover quickly. That's deliberate evidence. Zero explanation of how U.S. grid collapse could kill people in other countries, so there's no way their impact can outweigh or the collapse thought existential Shia and 23 social collapses most popular from creates wars. Uncommon societies under religious disintegration will survive real life. Social sad resources of people banned and 11 there's no rules. Hold it up. no Taiwan invasion. They're more prepared and unified than ever. They've voted for Ukraine and created a porcupine defense. Plus, U.S. military support is stable, so China wouldn't risk mutual destruction. That's according from evidence from September. The Choice says invasion bad, not invasion. What will happen? Because energy security is clearly not the linchpin. Okay, I forgot the Russia impact on Vantage 1. Go back there now. Russia won't address against NATO. Other factors far outweigh energy defeat. It's certain that NATO has triple the soldiers and 10 times the military strength. They didn't block blade. They instantly blow up their economy, making sanctions look like child's play. That's the big evidence. But it was presenting PhDs in Eurasia research. So mistake Western policy Putin. It was limits between 24. And since some content R2 often perhaps some commentators will say that there's no basis for alignment between the and tiers and discussions. Moscow and constantly deny anything to attack NATO. Market it, plans to attack NATO.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, the warrants for how the general strike is still pro-worker was worker boards and councils. What else?
Why banning unions is why for workers, because they do individual negotiations, like worker councils.
Those are protected how?
Employers want to do them because they want to keep their workers
Employers
happy.
want to negotiate with workers now individually.
They don't like the union format because it's adversarial.
Card
Because
for
unions-
individual negotiations are wanted by firms. What is it?
That is Hanania, a Irish doctor from the University of Chicago Law School. Without unions, businesses keep workers happy. Worker committees address pay, work conditions in a non-adversarial setting.
Oh my God.
I heard what I said.
This card is that they are recognized, and is that the political divide can be overcome. It's about sensible liberals challenging bad ideas on the other side. Why is this a reason they want to negotiate with workers over wages?
If their workers aren't happy, they won't do good work, won't be productive. They want to keep their workers at their company, not somewhere else. So they have an incentive, even without unions, to not deck their pay and make it horrible to work at that company.
This is clearly nonsense. The decline scenario, corporate contracts being given up and rollback of enforcement, like why do labor rights cause that?
Why do a general strike causes that?
Or why does a general strike cause that?
Because it collapses the economy overnight, like literally all.
I know, but why does it cause corporate
The government would lose
avoidance of
all
contracts
revenue. It would be
rollback?
impossible to govern anything. So the NLRB, who enforces the contracts, like would cease to
How?
exist and be
Like,
unable to enforce these things.
How? You said that Trump cracking down is a negative argument, and then also said that they need to scale up and be so large that they collapse the entire economy. Like
that will happen in like one night. On May 1st, everyone will quit their job and go on strike. That's what the card said. That means the economy blows up. If you read any card on this, let's see, maybe this would be a good
We're
argument.
gonna need cards to answer nonsense. It would be topical to strengthen remedies. First of all, did you read this card?
It would not be topical.
I'm saying, did you read this card?
Yeah.
Okay, this Grobardi card says the distinction between rights and remedies is undebatable because remedies and rights are simply just distinct concepts. Why?
Why are they distinct concepts?
Yeah.
I mean, the law says so. You read a card.
Yeah, why? Like, what is the difference between rights and remedies?
The right is your ability to do something. The remedy is like what is given to you if someone violates that. So like they have the right to do something. It doesn't mean the government can infringe upon that right in the future or another entity.
So the government post-counterclaim can't infringe on the rights of workers.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is the reason why your quadruple fiat can't solve circumvention. That's what we're saying. That's not a counterclaim solving.
Okay, I got you, that's fair. A-spec, new apps, bad jurisdiction, anything else?
No, that's good.
Okay. Automation, the reason general strike causes it is what if everyone dies May 1st?
If workers are unstable and willing to quit their jobs, then companies would prefer having AI.
I thought they have the time to make artificial intelligence take over.
Like, I mean, if you concede that we all die immediately, then sure, it doesn't matter that much. But if not everyone dies, workers get permanently replaced by robots.
Okay, so if they get permanently replaced by robots, then why does it collapse the economy?
Because still, like, everyone stopped going to work overnight. Like, production would immediately end. To automate jobs again. They can't do that instantly.
7:49. So Bruce, the answer to your question is it's under content. Where? I sent you the thing for it. It was.
No, but like, where's the
Oh, I'll send it to you. I got you. Okay. Then this is deficit, and we put this stuff right here.
After the deficit.
Yeah.
So permutation deficit.
Yeah.
Just send it to me.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. The 1 hour was accidentally sent before prep started. The order is just the midterms, yeah.
Good.
Anyone else? Pursuit of the Golden Dome triggers extinction. 1. Strategic stability, the threat of a perfect missile defense ends mutually assured destruction. Russia and China feel use it or lose it, pressures the first strike. While they still have the chance, which spirals into immediate nuclear war. It's faster than the case because it's preempted enough. It takes time to expand LNG to solve. Speed outweighs. It controls the direction of turn case plus intervening actors and black swans inherently reduce the risk of their offense. Second is arms racing. Russia and China respond by creating new nukes, especially space weapons. Those create avenues for accidental escalation and miscalculation, which circumvent traditional defense. The dissent solves case 1. Structurally, it comes to us 4 dimension press. 3 10. This may be the most important election of our lives. 26 with the breaks on Trump regaining Congress. Trump's or second, Democrats expand LNG and are good for infrastructure and construction proven by the bipartisan infrastructure bill under Trump. 2AC1 was uniqueness overwhelms. That's wrong. 1. Thumpers are uniqueness because they prove the Dems are will win now. Second, the link proves the plan shifts the conversation away from any of their thumpers. Their will feel means that it is constantly repeated and enforced per their solvency arguments. 3. Fragmented media means people do not see the thumpers, but they do see unions because voters because they are loud. Cloud 24. The union can be decisive. There are 2.7 million union members in battleground states roughly 450,000 votes in key states that were decided in the election. Fragments in the environment in this territory, which are undecided voters unions are the ultimate validator back to the noise and misinformation layout. The facts that Democratic win is not inevitable. Any issue shifting states as you be smiling. The 3 there's really something to define history of the so folks on what voters care about what voters care about economics voters are more interested in drama than what people's economy consistently because voters stop conservative Republicans focus on affordability. They can build a global majority. 2AC2 is gas prices overwhelmed. That's wrong. 1. The plan makes them lower improvements strikes in LNG which inevitably raises prices. Gas matters, so this is a new link. Second, unions still outweigh 2026 will be decided by union bosses. Mueller 224. Trump's economic users alienating voters, working class voters are the Trump's signal trouble for Logan's voters on an election year. They're looking to union representatives. 2AC3 was wrong. That's wrong. 1. The link outweighs Stevenson. 26. The economy is underlying driver. That's part of the foreign policy crisis incentivized the Iran kind of accelerating the economy remains. The structural engine of Fox and it appears to increase the spectacle for interested in problem solving. You can only fool this many times. 2. The plan shifts focus to a loser to a domestic policy winner. Bloomberg. 3-1. Research show Americans think these countries too much on football to too little. You cannot lose that the law has to deep focus on foreign affairs over domestic concern like inflation, affordability, a lot of problems at home. 3. Public sports are on Manchester 25. Sometimes we got to see the else on the real world of problems that are young union voters. Now 2AC4 is black swans. That's wrong. 1 is priced by union 7 forecasters account for uncertainty. 2. They're unlikely outliers by definition, and there's no reason to expect them to hurt Democrats. 3. Neg on presumption because the plan could happen tomorrow. And similarly, black swans could reverse the House policy. 2AC5 was Trump rigs the election. That's wrong. No steal, especially if the margin of victory is small. Grissman. 26. Trump will not be able to seal the midnight in terms of last season. No matter how much Trump disagrees a lot of something because we're taking over election for reversing losses. Sitting, especially if Republicans lose by substantial margins for the right side of the right side where it's a real good Trump taking the loss of lost Trump's fights for their procedures on the pipeline. This is what the Trump critics they do as well. 2AC6 and 8 were no swing, but that's wrong. 1. They dropped the Lincoln ban of the GP. Bill topples an effective base that defines the Democratic Party. Accommodation is bogus. I feel that people accuse the voter base, which is the lemon evidence in it. Empirically lost heresy election to 2 yes swing vote Morse. Despite classified politics, Wisconsin suggests people are changing their minds so the appropriation of democracy not completely different from rally, but not use mind enough difference to not have the greatest size of policy driving concern to supporters voting. 2AC7 was House realignment. That's wrong. The 1 was quote Josh Hawley. That's not an argument. Republicans are starchly anti-labor now and not focused on bipartisan legislation proven by that. They say that 2AC8 was no space for Trump unless irrelevant. Space war is status. No space war is status quo descriptive. have not read evidence, but when they do, it does not assume an orbital dome which will size of space increase overwhelming incentives to escalate to yes space forward so internal documents. 25. Space 4 not alienation of sustainable weapons period for destructive actions presented to implement etc. China Russia expanded arsenals of jammers bombers Russia assassinated nukes over on China military documents and physical constellations Russia document identified space fighting 2C9 was Golden Dome good, that's wrong. 1 pursuing the Golden Dome forces Russia and China to virtually field designing nukes. That was above 2, there's no warrant for South Korea would proliferate there. The card simply assumes what empirics prove that would do. North Korea is assessing a Trump alliance pullback means Soka won't proliferate. 3 Asian allies will not get nukes mills. 24 Soka Japan will there are nukes. US is a successful track record of abilities and concerns for US reliability, strong members of African consistency developed Schengen to Washington Declaration provided in its constitution and then nuclear program is constituted and nukes exposing to sanction damaging nuclear programs the US system. Alliances, market card alliances for the dome will not work. 25. The report considered GD technically feasible. The US gravity defense design helping against nuclear GD. Everything needs any third PR officers should against almost attack with UV 150,000 satellites would be remotely effective. One more heavy to be catastrophic. You don't want to fire just one intercept each missile door. But at least 4 or 5 are often turns there as reactionary. Monetization lose any upshot of missile defense service. The 26 don't feel the US forces challenge their expandable decades of this and the other system capable of reliability and intercepting whereas with most are used if it's under powered in the country would require that intercept features so that undermine system to equals or objects that gets the words that where all that comes from to overcome the dynamic space so that makes things impossible this is my best intercept only a handful but ending the dome solves their impact service. 26 initiatives could be called efforts to secure agreements that reduce the nuclear that 2AC10 was said that was that case solves the terminals. That's wrong. The 2AC mitigated it and if we win the terminals then the status quo is unsustainable because of mutually assured destruction. Our impact comparatively outweighs theirs perhaps 25. Even if the US were to sink lanes on the missile and salvage return of building encourage adversaries that it was more cheaper than missile actions to do a little to security when implementing nuclear arms. Very spinning that Iraq can represent arsenal and reliability consider reliable chains that they'll be launched with calls for arms control.
422.
Does it have the deficit?
Yeah.
It does need to be a deficit. Okay. Stop right.
210.
Sending dog. Very sorry, there's
case ban unions, the guidance counterplan, the terms they said.
1-2.
Huh?
1-2.
Yeah. 1-2, sorry. Everyone good?
I'm downloading right now, so.
You
Yeah.
move a little more toward
Yeah.
us.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, I'm good.
Cool.
First advantage, concede defense is the only advantage that relies on strikes by PLs have been eroded for decades. Is wrong where Biden had a PLA made it that robustly protected them. Advantage 2. Semiconductor dependence is double drug use dependence on foreign chips, which weaponized destruction that creates military imbalances, destabilizes deterrence of nuclear war, turns the DA and the counterplan because they both rely on deterrence collapse to ensure that nukes are launched. We have uniqueness for it. They don't. Chips control every aspect of military readiness and is a competitive dependency on East Asia creates an imbalance that we have no option but to go to war. That's the unsari evidence. The Taiwan scenario invasion is high in demands direct U.S. confrontation, exits the SCS and involves base and civilian targeting that draws in allies and encourages nuclear strikes on both mainlands. That's wrong. I don't think they read defense, but if they did, defense is zero because they depend on U.S. intervention. China defense is wrong. They have every incentive because of reunification and the economic allure of taking Taiwan's chips. They don't risk it over energy, but they do over chips because it underpins U.S. deterrence to Taiwan. Taiwanese attacks and prevents economic supply chain disruptions. The ban unions counterplan. Permutation, do the counterplan, and then the AFF solves it mandates PLAs while banning unionization, which would still be a function of stronger collective bargaining rights mandate. Collective bargaining rights are rights to the process of making collective bargaining agreements. It solves it would still be collective bargaining that results in a CBA without a union. Collective bargaining rights requires contract negotiations that results in a CBA. Just requires employees negotiate with their employers. Only in 20 collective bargaining organizations one of the which employers negotiate with their employer agreements. Reaches the bargaining process established terms of employment, wages, hours, and work conditions, health and safety, training, grievance resolution, contracts resulting referred to as a CBA. Well, can you give me the process?
Yeah.
Not new. We read a CBR's definition in the 2EC. We get to answer them in the 1 year time benefit. The block Mueller's the definition of collective bargaining, not bargaining rights. CBR answered above notes. Conceded to the block because of AFF sandbagging. This says collective bargaining doesn't exist if an employer retains the power to establish wages, hours, and working conditions off the counterplan, which just bans unions one way. It says there's other ways to negotiate in good faith, and the best increases unions for a narrow set of workers. Construction workers aren't enough to catalyze general strikes now. That doesn't sever certainty, but prevents the kind of competition based on immediacy that's existential for debate. Encourages delay counterplans. Competition often should and proliferates undermine that benefits force the AFF to defend immediacy key, which is nonsense. Equalize the research burden and tilts. Every counterplan debate in favor of the next zeros AFF. And in-depth clash that can otherwise the gets kind of normal means counterplans. It's true for DS, not counterplans, which solve the deficit. And now the deficit semiconductor decline certainty turns as CW and sorry says it underpins only unionization on Biden era LPA protections ensure uptake. Otherwise, workers are aware of contractual union busting prevents electricity transmission and semiconductor build-up. That the Xing evidence counterplan can't solve any of the infrastructure. It's entirely based on semiconductor unionization being critical to skilled labor productivity and buy-in to manufacturing construction. That is the only way to restore U.S. trapped independence. As the Xing and CW is employers protect workers as zero worker boards and councils doesn't make sense because firms don't have any incentive to make their workers happy. Their court literally assumes they want to keep them happy because they'll strike. The counterplan bans presumption is zero. Fiat solves because normal means of the plan is NLR being upheld, fully funded, and union busting being enforced. That's desert clash to prevent endless debates about agency intervention. The worst presumption, the one sees out of warrant, so we get into answers. Automation, double turns decline. They would have enough time to automate everyone and prevent the strike for collapse in the economy. No decline assumes strikes scale up unrealistically, and there are no strikes now. But no strikes now. Every 1AC card says supply chains are sustainable in construction. LPA sign no strike clauses. 1C HOT is 0 says that a strike is likelier than we think, but not enough to collapse the government. 2NC Alex says it's straw person alluding to some strikes, not enough to catalyze the strike against the government. No clause or reason why the strikes are sustained, or enough to collapse the government. Most workers aren't in union. Hans also says no king Bruce, which wasn't even a labor strike. Bruce, other means of organizing it. The ALC evidence just says that they're calling for a general strike. Watson is hypothetical, and every decent one is about Europe. And the next card, the Poirier card, doesn't say it's enough to topple the government. And all the cards are just rhetorically powerful enough to convince people to join a general strike. None of them say it's likely or citing anyone that's not a labor advocate. They say UF's bad, but that's the AF innovation disclosing plan text solves the best way to take coaches out of the room. Ace picks out a glitter agent counterplan, steal the AF possible to defend. Crossing strikes, long as the advocate strike should have been the one in states and RBI for cowardice. Go to the midterms DA. It doesn't solve the plan is an XO. The House can't check Trump executive actions. Dems would authorize wars. Dems good for LNGs. Irrelevant if they can't push for policies through the Senate. They'll lose the Senate conceded from the 2AC that blocks any limits to Trump's foreign policy. 2AC1. Uniqueness decisively overwhelms the House. Every front page. Select post since February's fragmented the media drowns out. Union victories PLAs are published in niche construction journals. Our evidence is better on affordability in the context of Senate elections, citing recent wins, which doesn't answer the trends argument. Financing campaign is messaging is wrong. Construction workers are 5% of the economy, not enough of a sustained advantage that their evidence describes. Top level threshold for the link has to be a 30% margin of difference swing for House races that are essentially calcified and impossible in a world where the GOP has multiple structural issues working against their favor. Gas prices, 2AC2, gas prices, top affordability affects every voting group more than construction does, costing support among the independents, Latino, and working class workers, causes disastrous elections. Even if that's enough to convince the construction workers, it's not enough to convince every other worker in the United States. All their cars about affordability workers doesn't ignore Trump. The outweighs the link affects a broader number of workers in terms of affordability negotiations will be on the basis of higher gas prices, which means they will all attribute that to the GOP. That's the layer of evidence, and the plan isn't perceived through affordability. Relevant in 316 midterm election for sharply focused on inflation, concerns about price hikes, applicants of the race growth followed by corruption, economy, jobs, migration, healthcare, and top priorities. Among the most comprehensive tracking polls, inflation is the top issue. President continuing to gas prices started warning around disrupted the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran war takes out the link of workers can overlook a banning America First agenda and a foreign policy revival. They can overlook the planet's frame, not get how major durable source of division. That's the Bailey evidence, and uniqueness overwhelms. That was above. Black swans are inevitable. That's 2AC4 turns trends. It's impossible to predict, especially when races are this close. Any number of actions can butterfly affect the future races. No, the Golden Dome impact, no preemption or post-midterm tampering. Fiat and Dems don't plan. That's the plan because a firm lobby dome is zero. Doesn't cap intervention. That happens outside of BMB. No space for no incentive to strike a orbital dome stone. Saying there's war happening now, which takes out uniqueness for why dome causes it. And no exotic nuclear nukes are racing. Swooping 25 years. Moscow convection races as expanding missile forces and space power. Stability and arms race are impossible to measure. China and Russia aggressively expanding cyber space. Regular warfare. Golden Dome is reasonable response. Russia and China have the same idea, certainly building their own domes, arms race in space, already doing for decades. The offensive purpose is true of any weapons that are hard to imagine. Massive infrastructure respond to building both China and Russia develop no weapons to counter historically kind of massive developments. Blunt the advantages. Mark Ricard blunt the advantages. Trump breaks the election act, says intimidation, interference, and transferring authority to prosecute election crimes. Ricard doesn't answer the likelihood and says close election. That was answers the vote.
Send this card. It's 320, right?
I
40.
40.
Perfect. Alright, set that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They're gonna go for. They're not gonna go.
Yeah.
Try or die to bust the unions. A double strike is coming on May 1st. The 2AC lack impact even so to the 1 year. You are assertive. Double strike happens. Everyone dies. The company votes overnight. Governments will break down. Every adversary is immediately involved to initiate wars of aggression and causing their Taiwan semiconductor stereo will all perish nuclear Armageddon. There's no shot the plan nor firm can solve it because UK keeps unions around. Thus, you must prefer the counterplan that outweighs even the full rest of the case. 1. Time frame. They dropped it. It takes months to negotiate contracts. We're all dead. Way before that, the short-term impacts are inherently more probable because there's no time frame reactor to check them. Second, Turns case is just massive and totally dropped, allowing them to strike permanently ends worker power towards Stonewall, meaning everyone would quit their job for nothing and no one would ever join even ever again. Construction unions would never have any leverage to negotiate PLS ever again even after the plan that's Thomas evidence. Economic decline in construction industry goes down. It's obviously a huge shock to supply chains, and we couldn't build new grids. Thus, everyone's future lake is reliant on workers doing the job, which is impossible during a double strike. That's alleged evidence. Okay, now permutation, do the plan, then the counterplan. What are we doing? It's mutually exclusive. If you do the counterplan, you can never do the plan because the counterplan bans all unions and thus bans all CPR. So the 1NC definition was conceded. Collective bargaining is defined as negotiation between an employer and a union. Thus, the counterplan, which bans all unions, means you can never ever do the plan because we can never strike the CPRs because they simply cannot exist in the word of the counterplan. Even if they define CPR as a 2AC, not in a way that justified non-union. So this is just brand new in the 1 year. I'm really confused what UTD thinks the word collective bargaining is. If you're not bargaining with the union, then you're bargaining individually, so it's not collective at all. Strike every 1 year argument. I could read more cards, made a bigger deal about our defense or our interest in the block, but they just simply dropped it in the 2AC. This logic is like if the 1NC read 2 links to this, that, and the 2AC dropped 1, the 1 year now just answered the other link just because they at least answered 1. Hell no, that makes next year impossible because the block was based off 2AC mistakes. The 1 year lobbying evidence agrees with us because it says collective bargaining is quote an organized labor process. The counterplan bans organized labor, so that cannot exist in the word of the firm. For our interp for precision, they drop our definitions. The quote universally recognized definition. The 2AC on T said that practicability is key to divide after net ground, which is key to preach over prep. Our card is being about CPR, not collective bargaining rights. It's not an indictment because all rights mean is a right to collective bargaining, which so that definition necessarily must come first. The 1 year like a reason why they're interpret better than ours, so you just default to ours all unpredictability stuff, and it's second the totalness of matter. Second, intrinsic. They dropped that the firm add sequencing, which is present in the plan or counterplan. That's a voting issue because it means that AFF can always delay the plan and despite all this as they can spike midterms by saying they get plans after the midterms and thus we can't say states, which they said was a key functional limit on T and the 2AC. Thus, their model of intrinsicness means we can never get any permutations. They said some theory thing. If it's brand new, the 2AC said the ban can put the functional limit on self-locality, so they don't get to say that's not a bad thing. The counterplan does not compete off the opinions, it competes off words in the plan text. So we don't justify certain competition, we only justify this counterplan, which is good for debate as per the 2AC. Okay, the counterplan totally solves the advantage. It means that workers don't go on strike, which is why some countries would collapse in the status quo. They drop individual bargaining is better because the 2AC harness link cards is that employers want workers to be happy so they do their job better. They'll increase their wages and do things to help them, but unions block that now because it's adversarial, and it means that employers can't do the things they want to do, which the counterplan allows them to do. Yes, strike now. And our evidence is quite good. 1, categorically aired neg in the question because unions want the element of surprise. They don't actually want us to be thinking the strike is coming. We didn't know the ICE protests were going to happen in Minnesota until they did. But we're citing union insiders working behind the scenes. That's 1NC Han. Saying supply chain stable does not obviously disprove that a job strike could be coming. But remember, the 1AC themselves said the supply chains are going to collapse now because organized labor is so unhappy they're actually going to strike, so they made the argument for us. Second, it happens May 1st. 2NC out says this is D-Day. Unions are actively building national connections to unite the working class. Third, worst case, it's a matter of when, not if, workers are pissed off about Trump fascism, corporate takeover, and deportation. So every year there's a risk of strike. So we must cut off the union head as fast as we can before they drop Minnesota's at a turning point. Because it was a wake-up call to the rest of the country to put the power back in the hands of the people. That's pure evidence. Our card, they basically 4-0. Their card that they no card in the context of workers. Our card says that Trump would blow up organizing, which is our point on the card about that workers wouldn't do that in spite of that. Yes, our evidence is happening. That obviously hasn't happened yet. Our authors being pro-organizers is being labor organizers is a pro-that, not an in-that. Their organizers are calling for it, organizing for it to strike for all her evidence. No RBI for cowardice is a response to the new 2C theory. And they dropped the reasonability applies to non-res theory. Okay, the midterms, this ad, not going for it. Can see no total impact. The Golden Dome, definitely. And the plan is dropping the bucket. Also, the counterplan links the midterm, so this just cannot possibly be an offense for them. Okay, the advantage is tiny. The counterplan accesses military imbalance or larger than the case. The entire governance collapses immediately. So even if they win, the hedge feed into this, that means they cannot possibly solve if we win. Double strike is coming now. Semiconductors are not the linchpin of deterrence. They dropped that Taiwan is more prepared than ever. They're unified. They learned from Ukraine, who defeated Russia because they're doing porcupine defense, which makes invasion impossible. This all means that energy is not the critical internal link to whether a Taiwan war is going to happen. Okay, the problem with reading 2 Asian impacts is that our defense have been to one class advantage too. They dropped that Asia is stable. But China does not want to attack Taiwan because everyone kind of stays interdependent. They rely on Taiwanese semiconductors, that the ASEAN and global banking institutions, as well as free trade agreements, means that no one ever wants to go to war. So even if they feel energy insecurity, China will never use that as a reason to go to war. If they drop that mutually assured destruction still exists. So there's no reason why any country would want to go to nuclear war. And always are reliant on a strong economy, which is just simply impossible if we allow a general strike to happen. Okay. Do they want to say one thing? Okay. Ban units counterplan. One more thing. Sorry. They read new cards for the perm, so I get a new answer. The permutation is severance because it severs the word. I'm actually reading this card first. The counterplan does ban units, but Cardigan 3. Collective bargaining is the sine qua non for labor union. This permutation is also severance because it severs the immediacy of the plan. This is a 2C warrant dropped in the 1AR. If they wanted to say the plan was not immediate, they would have to do that in cross-ex, but they are in the 1AC, but they clearly did not do that. So re-clarifying now post hoc means that after structurally or the NEG is structurally behind the 2AC can always clarify what the plan does. So building our distance, so we lose all of NEG ground like midterms, econ, because they can always delay the plan indefinitely. So that must be certain, and you cannot vote on the perm.
Was it 211? 210. Oh, 210. Infrastructure advantage, ban unions counterplan. Okay.
No next speech will 2 hour answer trip dependence. They think it's just a Taiwan impact, but it's flagged warranted as an independent tech dominance impact. U.S. dependence on foreign trips, risk weaponization with disruptions that creates military imbalances. It destabilizes turns of nuclear war that turns a dissent or turns a counterplan because it relies on deterrence collapse under a scenario of economic decline and governance collapse and ensures nukes are launched. We have uniqueness for it. They don't. Trips controls every aspect of military readiness and competitive dependency on East Asia creates an imbalance that we have no option but to go to war. But Ansari evidence counterplan is not also military imbalance assumes strikes and collapse the government will contest. Semiconductors key deterrence was above Ukraine. Defending Russia does not apply to Taiwan. Taiwan because it's wholly dependent on U.S. offensive view. And Ukraine was stable because they got your head drones from Iran, which Taiwan is not even allies with, so you clearly don't know what you're talking about. HO stable does not apply because that scenario assumes that interdependence things like ASEAN and global banking card create economic costs. Our offense explicitly answers it, says economic costs are no longer a calculation for China because they're willing to risk it all because their economy has already gone to shit, which means interdependence does not matter for them. It's also more of a reason why economic decline does not have an impact because our impacts of intrinsic reasons why economic interdependence is not checking conflict now. And they've read supply chains defense. We have conceded that says that disruptions that happen locally do not cascade globally, which plays defense to their economic decline scenario and also plays defense to the ability for the counterplan to turn its case, which is their defense on supply chains, which is excellent. Frogs mad, checks no reason to go to the chorus. Our argument only deterrence is only upheld under a scenario where semiconductor independence ensures that we can upscale large chip production into military integration, which dependency never allows resilient to sustain hegemony. Any risk is outweighed by invasion, which is external and demands U.S. direct U.S. military conversation. Exit TSS involves base and civilian targeting conceded that draws an allies and encourages nuclear strikes on the homelands. There's no long evidence. If they're in defense, this China did exit warrants why Taiwan cannot attack. They have no defense now. Any defense they have is just to extend the conflict until the U.S. can intervene. They've considered a logic that will inevitably lead to civilian targeting and base targeting that ensures nuclear retaliation. Ban units counterplan. The deficit is genuinely massive. We have one advantage about strikes, and the second advantage about why unions are good, and they've conceded the scenario for why that is existential. Semiconductor decline certainly turns the counterplan. COW Nassari says it underpins only unionization based on Biden era PLA protections for uptake. Otherwise, workers are wary of contractual union busting, which the top of the 2NR ensures that this scenario to the counterplan prevents electricity transmission semiconductor to build that machine gun. It's a joke when the 2NR stands up and says it's try or die for union busting, and then also tries to say that the counterplan is better for workers. Lock in and pick an angle. The counterplan can't solve any of infrastructural totality based on semiconductor unionization being critical to skilled labor productivity and buy-in of manufacturing construction, which is the only way to restore U.S. chip independence. Such as Jing and CWA evidence. Employers protect workers to zero. Worker boards and councils don't make sense, and firms don't have any incentives to make their workers happy. Their card literally assumes that they want to keep them happy because a strike can risk disruptions, which the counterplan bans. So there's not a reason for why the counterplan solves it. Presumption is zero. If the up solves because of erroneous in the plan and the NLRB being fully upheld and fully funded and union busting being enforced, it's best for clash crimes readiness and less debates about agency revenge. Conceded their words presumption are out. Warrants 200 is willing to go for this. They've conceded that automation double turns decline. If they would have enough time to automate, everyone would have the time to diversify supply chains and the economy away from a scenario where a strike collapses it. They have not read evidence or credible evidence in this debate that assumes a strike will collapse the economy so quickly, which is why the 200 did not utter words about this argument of increase in wages, unions adversarial now, or both affirmative arguments because an increase in wages, unions being adversarial was the first card in the 1AC about how, or second card in the 1AC about how LPA solved the adversarial nature of unions. Now via integrating no strike and no lockout clause, which solves all their scenarios for why general strike is bad. The AFF ban strikes, the counterplan does too, and they're trying to go for this as a diss on the affirmative. It's obviously illogical. There's no decline. It assumes that strikes scale up unrealistically. We don't need internal impact defense when one turns case zero, so I've conceded supply chains defense when internal in terms of logic of disruptions, economic disruptions going global, and two, conceded that there's a full risk of there's no risk of strikes because having so laughably large and unchecked to cost the economy. They don't have cards for this. Only for every card they've read in this debate on the question of strikes, the evidences are calling for a general strike. Now that it is happening, they don't have evidence of prescriptive that can cost the economy if it actually happens. Watson is a Lord of the Rings hypothetical, and the only decent word is about Europe, and the likelihood is a straw person, literally. The prior evidence does not say it's not to help the government. All of these cards are rhetorically powerful that it says it can convince people to join a general strike, but not that the general strike actually happens and actually costs the economy, which is you are certain of because of the state of union busting and the status quo. All assume, or no strikes post affirmative. Every 1AC card is about why supply chain sustainable. The construction PLA signed no strike clauses on is zero. It says strikes are likelier than we think, but not enough to cost the government. There are other qualifications, or obviously reverse qualifications, because there's a bunch of union hippies who are trying to write about how a massive general strike is coming on a specific date, which will never come because they've planned the general strike about 7 times now. Unions are a very small portion of workers. There's only 10% of the economy that's unionized, so banning unions does not solve all the other unions that would still engage in a general strike regardless, which they have no internal link to, which should reduce the risk instead. We don't need cards for this because we validate their cards and make common sense arguments why this is true. They also consider why is the evidence says that the U.S. has the right to refrain any strikes that can scale up to cost the economy under the national security exemption. The permutation.
Oh, that sounds like.
Kids does not understand how competition works. Permutation of the counterplan, the affirmative, also 100% of the amendment collective bargaining rights do not require unions. 1SC card was not conceded. We answer on TCRs. The block didn't read more cards. 1 year said it doesn't require unions. If we win, it's not severance or intrinsic because it includes all the plan and at very least most of the counterplan. The presumption would the permutation would ban all unions, but still allow for collective bargaining rights and pre-hire collective bargaining rights in the construction industry that has employees and employers would be mandated to agree to a pre-hire collective bargaining rights. So that's not severance. The launch evidence is collective bargaining rights is organized labor process in which employers negotiate with their employer through the bargaining process. The counterplan doesn't ban collective bargaining or have to do anything with the NLRA or the construction structure of labor law. If we win, it's possible to strike collective bargaining acts without unions. None other evidence is mutually exclusive, but the 20 year evidence says it's impossible. It says that unions would still be exist under the world. The permutation shows that benefit because it disrupts the vast majority of general strikes in organizing, but includes all of the plan, which is easy to resolve because they have not read evidence that is exclusive, and the 200 definition is even worse with them. Competition based on NDT is bad. The late counterplans competition should implement germane net benefits. Their competition spin on CDR is nonsense because self-force the active defend NEG, which is nonsense, which equals the research burden and tilts every counterplan debate in favor of the negative, which is try to preserve fairness. All impacted out above. Good debate.
Good night.
Putting together a card.
Sweet. Thanks.
Thank God, Smith.